asking the Lord for a viable pregnancy and a healthy baby. But God chose not to answer those prayers until Julia got pregnant with our triplet grandchildren, who have brought us immeasurable joy. Why didn't God answer our earlier prayers? Was it because we didn't have enough faith? No. Though we sometimes doubted God's timing and His methods, we knew that God loved Julie and Ryan, and if it was His will for them to have natural-born children, then He would make a way through the mountain of infertility and keeping a pregnancy. When the triplets were born, we knew that with God, we had been invincible over that mountain. This experience strengthened our faith and reminded us that, from God's perspective, even the tallest mountain is but a speck in His hand. In Matthew chapter 17, Jesus said, "Truly I say to you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move, and nothing will be impossible to you." Verse 20. Jesus wasn't referring to physical mountains. He was using imagery to communicate a spiritual truth. All of us will encounter mountain-like difficulties in life that seem overwhelming. Bible scholar William Barclay explained this well. What Jesus meant was, if you have faith enough, all difficulties can be solved, and even the hardest task can be accomplished. Faith in God is the instrument which enables men and women to remove hills of difficulty which block their path. Notice Jesus didn't say it takes mountain-sized faith to move mountains. It takes only mustard seed-sized faith. Mustard seeds are tiny. Jesus wanted His disciples and us to understand that God will honor even the smallest amount of faith. When we put our faith in God and rely on His power, praying according to His will, He will enable us to shake our fists at the mountains in our lives and say, "I will conquer you because I am growing in my faith. And by faith, God will help me be invincible." The Mountain Mover. At first glance, mustard seed faith hardly seems enough to conquer the mountains that loom large in our lives. But to look at the mountains from merely a human viewpoint is to take our eyes off the mountain mover. The ancient Israelites did that when they looked across the river into the Promised Land. In Numbers chapter 13, God's people were on the verge of receiving the blessing promised long ago. All they had to do was cross the river and conquer the people who lived there. But when the spies Moses sent in to survey the land returned, 10 of the 12 were frightened by the mountain-sized people who occupied the land. They were so large, these spies said, "We became like grasshoppers in our own sight." Verse 33. Can't you picture the image? People as big as mountains compared to people as small as grasshoppers. From the spies' perspective, the mountain-sized giants could and would squash them like bugs. What the spies failed to consider was that the God who made the mountains had already promised to move the mountains if they would just have faith and trust His promise. Moving the mountains in your life. Standing at the base of a mountain that blocks your path feels daunting. But instead of looking at the crevasses and rocks, you can choose to focus on what awaits you on the other side. When you learn to do that, your mountains won't seem intimidating anymore. Invincible was written to help you do just that. This book describes 10 of the most difficult mountains that can separate you from the blessed life God has for you. Each chapter will equip you with biblical insights and practical tools so that when the mountain you face threatens to defeat you, you can conquer it and come out stronger on the other side. Moving from doubt to faith. When we encounter the mountain of doubt, it blocks our view of God's grace, mercy, and love. Doubt can lead to uncertainty about the truth of Scripture and even our salvation. Conquering this